I was having y'all, but Rico from StreetScores, and I have some fantastic news, man. According to trustworthy sources, the Washington Commanders will be very aggressive in this upcoming 2025 free agency next month. And of course, we're going to dive into what that means, what the source is, all of that type of stuff. And then, of course, I also got to throw in there my second mock free agency where we dive into, okay, we'll get this player for this much money, this player for this much money, and all of these type of things. How many needs can we fix? How many holes can we fill before we even get to the NFL draft in late April? We're going to dive into all of that and more. And of course, I have a fun fact for you at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around so I can give you that fun fact. That will be at the end of the video. Also, you already know this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we get into everything, make sure you stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Again, I have so many video ideas that I have loaded up for y'all, but then random breaking news like this comes out of nowhere and just keeps pushing everything back. So trust me, I have so many video ideas loaded up for y'all. Can't wait. More mock drafts, more mock free agencies like this. So many specific updates. Like I still haven't even talked about Cooper Kupp or Kyle Pitts, who have all been rumored to be attached to the Commanders that we may trade for. So be on the lookout for those videos soon as well. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so shouts out to Dan Graziano from ESPN because he reported earlier today, as of February 8th, Saturday, the Commanders are expected to be aggressive in the offseason in pursuing defensive upgrades specifically. He didn't just say in general, he said defensive upgrades. Sounds like we're probably going to be going heavily after some of the top players at different, defensive positions. Graziano also added that Washington is, quote, more likely to get aggressive for someone like Myles Garrett, unquote, as they want to maximize Jaden Daniels' rookie contract window. Ooh, I love the sound of that, man. First of all, I completely agree with DC Rising. I had the exact same thoughts, but I felt like he worded it so well. He quote tweeted this and said, I absolutely love it. I mean, I'm still not used to even having a competent GM in Adam Peters. Like, that's just a beautiful thing in itself. He also said, it's so important that we spend big in the next few years because Jaden Daniels' next contract is going to be ridiculous, obviously. He is going to break the bank. He is going to set an NFL record for most money in an NFL contract. He's going to knock it out of the park. He's going to set a whole new level. He's going to reset the market. We need to do everything it takes to build a great team and try to go win some Super Bowls now before Jaden Daniels is eating up a ridiculous amount of the cap space. But this is what happens when you finally get a quarterback right in the draft. We've been trying to solve quarterback for a long time. Looks like we finally got it. So basically, it's go time. Green, step on the gas. Let's go. I mean, you have this wide open window of a top 5 quarterback on a cheap rookie deal for the next 4 years max. So it's time to hit that big red button, all systems go type of thing. Let's dive in head first into doing whatever it takes to win a Super Bowl as soon as possible. It would be nice if we can go ahead and try to get this 2025 season, 2026 Super Bowl. Let's go ahead and win it next year. Let's get it. Because again, that window closes. I mean, it's not like it's impossible. You see Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs doing it consistently year in year. But that's a very unique situation right there. You have the Tom Brady's, you have the Pat Mahomeses, but it's way better to have that quarterback on that rookie deal playing at an elite level, and then you have money and cap space to pay everybody around him to play at elite level as well. So I say let's definitely make sure we get that done. So let's dive into the exact source of this information, the exact quote. So you had Dan Graziano. Well, really, it's just all of ESPN. It's like a combination of Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano. They did Super Bowl Buzz, latest on NFL free agency, draft, and coaches. First of all, in a certain part of the article, they talk about how Garrett's trade request will affect the pass rusher market and how a lot of pass rushers, even outside of Myles Garrett, will probably be demanding more money in free agency because of the whole Myles Garrett situation and saga that's going on. They dove into a lot of interesting topics, like who may become the new Saints head coach, all kinds of stuff. But when it comes to the Washington Commanders specifically, they also talked about Cooper Kupp potentially going to the Commanders as well. We'll dive into that in another video. But what we're here for, are the Commanders going all in? Graziano said, expect the Commanders to be aggressive this offseason in pursuing roster upgrades on defense specifically. Much like the Texans last year after CJ Stroud's dazzling rookie season, Washington believes it has something special in Jaden Daniels and wants to maximize his rookie contract window, like we've already talked about. Getting to the NFC Championship game in Daniels' first year only makes Washington more likely to get aggressive for someone like a Myles Garrett, and if and when Cleveland decides to move him. So they sound like they're optimistic about the fact, from what they're hearing behind the scenes, that maybe the Browns will just go ahead and trade him. I mean, he has put them in an ugly situation where he seems like he's even willing to sit out and miss games. Like, he's dead serious about, I'm not playing another game for the Browns. So whether y'all hold me hostage or y'all trade me, either way, I'm not playing for y'all. And the longer that the Browns take to trade him, the lower the value will potentially be that they could get in return. Because if we get to a situation where Myles Garrett is sitting out of games, and then it's obvious that they have literally no choice but to trade him right now, their leverage decreases by that point. And then now teams can lowball them a little bit. I mean, you're still going to get at least a first-round pick in return for Myles Garrett, but at that point, teams can definitely start to lowball the Browns a little bit more than they can right now. They can strong-arm them a little bit. So honestly, it is better for the Browns to go ahead and trade him as soon as possible, especially before the draft, because immediately after the draft, picks, lose their value, and we'll see how that goes. But either way, finishing up, Washington needs a lot of work on defense, and don't be surprised to see the team stretch for an impact player or two in the coming months. The Commanders were 19th in defensive EPA this past season, and one of the main reasons why we didn't win the NFC Championship to go to the Super Bowl. I blame fumbles. I feel like the fumbles were, I think, number one as far as reasons go. I feel like the refs, you could throw them in there somewhere. I also feel like the Eagles just far more talented, specifically on defense. And then Saquon Barkley and that offensive line, insane. But shouts out to Serena Burks of Commanders Wire, because she brings up some good points. She says the Washington Commanders had one glaring problem this season. It's subpar run defense. The Commanders' run defense ranked near the bottom of the league and was a thorn in its own side all season long. The explosiveness of offensive rookie of the year Jaden Daniels and the resurgence of wide receiver Terry McLaurin are primary reasons why the Commanders were so successful in 2024. I mean, they literally carried the team on their back, the offense specifically. Because of that, NFL insider and ESPN reporter Dan Graziano says he expects the Commanders to be aggressive in its search for defensive roster upgrades. Already gave you the quote there. But Serena finishes up by saying, Washington has already been named a prime place for Myles Garrett to land if and when Cleveland decides to move him. So it's not far-fetched to think the Commanders would actively seek a trade. Garrett, arguably the best defensive player in the entire NFL, is a beast on the field and would instantly improve the performance of the Commanders' defense. I mean, our overall team. I think that automatically takes us from 7th, I believe, in Super Bowl winning odds right now out of the entire NFL for next season to at least top 3. However, the Commanders could also answer this question in the draft or free agency. If they decide Cleveland's asking price for Garrett is too high, they can look for other options that will not cost them trade assets. Washington has options. We'll have to wait and see what they choose to do. And so now that we know that the Washington Commanders are reportedly going to basically go all in on this upcoming free agency class, they're going to even outdo their 2024 selves in this 2025 free agency class. I think it's the perfect time to dive into another mock free agency. Let's do mock free agency 2.0. And just to let you know, I already did 1.0 in my mock draft 1.0, where I included free agency right before I gave y'all my mock draft, basically like an entire mock off season. So make sure y'all go check that out. I just did it like a couple of days ago if you missed on that. But when I did my free agency mock a couple of days ago, I didn't have a strong and trustworthy report that the Commanders planned on going all in next month in free agency. I just simply assumed that they would, just by logic, by looking at the situation, Jaden Daniels, rookie contract, Super Bowl window, and all of that. It made too much sense. But now that we have ESPN trustworthy sources saying that we more than likely will, I think it's the perfect time to go all in on a mock free agency. And so now that we know that we more than likely will go crazy in free agency. And also, one last thing, and of course, we got to talk about some BetUS before we actually dive into it. But I also want to let y'all know that before we get into my second mock free agency, like I said before the last one, we can't have the top player at every position in the free agency class. That is a complete fantasy. That's living in Disney World. I know that if you combine cap space and Super Bowl contention plus elite young quarterback on a rookie deal, we are the #1 free agency destination this year out of the entire NFL. Out of all 32 teams, we are the #1 free agency destination. Again, if you combine Super Bowl contention, young elite quarterback on a rookie deal, and the amount of cap space that we have, we are the #1 destination. The culture that we have, the coaches, the front office, all of that. But that does not mean that we're going to end up with literally the #1 top player at every single position. We may end up with 1 or 2, maybe even 3 of the top players at their respective positions, that as far as guys that are available in this upcoming free agency. But to expect to get the #1 guy in every position is way too unrealistic. So, for example, if we get like the best edge rusher and the best tackle, even though this is a fairly weak tackle free agency class, then I'm assuming that we would get like the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th best at other positions. So you just got to figure out which positions you're going to prioritize the most at the highest level, and then do what you can at the other ones as well to kind of fill in the blanks. And so I also want to make sure I include market values in this one, because unlike the last mock free agency where we focused on the draft, I want to make sure that the money adds up. So I'm going to include market values, how much I think we can get them for, what type of contracts, like how many years, how much money per year. We're going to have the cap space and everything. Speaking of, let's dive into the cap space. And remember, last year we found out like the official salary cap numbers going into the next season by February 23rd. We'll see if we'll find out on that exact same date this year. We'll get like the official number then. But as of right now, salary cap wise, we are of course 3rd, only behind the New England Patriots and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Patriots are 1, Raiders 2, we're 3, and then it's a big gap going from 3 to 4. It's us at 3 with $80.5 million in cap space in 3rd place, to the Chicago Bears in 4th place, right behind us with only $65.9 million in cap space. That's a pretty steep drop off going from 3 to 4. So we're in like another tier of cap space, because then going from the Bears to the Chargers, it's only a difference of like a little over $1 million. So we're literally, it's like a tier of like the Patriots in their own tier, the Raiders and Commanders in like the 2nd tier, and then it's Bears down in like the 3rd tier or whatever, going all the way down. How many other tiers you want to get into doesn't matter, because we're in the top 2 tier with the 3rd most cap space in the NFL. And so we have a lot of money to play with, but at the same time, I'm going to keep reminding y'all, do not forget to set money aside for not only your draft class, which won't be much for real, because first of all, we don't even have a lot of draft picks, and then we're not drafting very high because we just went to the NFC Championship game, but also all of the guys you need to account for, the guys that we need to re-sign from last year's team that are unrestricted free agents now. Guys like Bobby Wagner, guys like Jeremy Chin, even Tress Way, Marcus Mariota. I doubt we bring back KJ Osborne, and, you know, maybe we bring back Cleveland Farrell, but you have Dante Fowler. Doubt we bring back Michael Davis. Zach Ertz, Cornelius Lucas, maybe Michael Dieter, probably Trent Scott. Quite likely Jamison Crowder, unless we find another starting punt returner in the draft or something, and maybe they just wait to sign Jamison Crowder back until after the draft to see if they did that. Noah Benogany, you may bring him back. Benjamin St. Juste, doubt it, but you never know. Olamide Zaccheaus, maybe. De'Ami Brown, I hope so, but maybe. Noah Brown, not likely, maybe. Nick Bellore, quite likely as an elite special teamer. Sheldon Day, you know, as depth, maybe. Jeff Driscoll, maybe. Jeremy McNichols, maybe. Mikael Walker, we'll see. You know what I'm saying? Zane Gonzalez, maybe it's part of like a kicker competition. Maybe we prioritize adding more kickers, but maybe Zane Gonzalez is in the competition and we don't just completely let him go walk free. Jayla Holmes, maybe. Austin Seibert, another guy that we can include in the kicking competition when healthy. John Bates, maybe. Derek Forrest, we'll see, especially special teams wise. And Chris Rodriguez, I hope so. We'll see about that one. Just remember, all of those names that I just read to you are not included in that 3rd most cap space in the NFL that I just gave you. So you have to kind of subtract some of that money, set some of that money aside for those guys, and then what you have left over, you can go and get top free agents. And I still feel like that will be enough money to get the class that I'm about to present to you now. But before we get there, Y'all already know, man. This show is provided by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, and if you're looking for a new sportsbook, it should be BetUS for sure. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry. I know y'all want y'all money fast, and right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE150. And they also have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, so it's really like, why not? Now, let's dive into some bets that we can get into directly through their website. Well, how are y'all feeling about this 2025 NFL Draft first overall pick odds? If you believe Shedeur Sanders will be the one that goes first, even though, and the odds even somewhat agree with Abdul Carter having the second highest odds, I believe, right now. They feel like he'll probably end up being the first overall pick. I'm leaning that way as well. But if you believe Shedeur Sanders will actually end up being the first overall pick just off of positional value, you know what I'm saying, between Cameron Ward, Shedeur Sanders being quarterbacks, you could probably narrow it down to those two going first overall, especially with the Titans arguably needing a quarterback. So we'll see what happens there, even though I don't feel like, me personally, I don't feel like either of the quarterbacks are worthy of going number 1 overall. I feel like Abdul Carter should as an edge rusher, as an elite edge rusher potentially. But if you believe Shedeur Sanders at plus 400 odds will end up being the number 1 overall pick, if you put $100 down on that today, you can end up winning $400 by late April night at the end of the first round, or even before the first round is up. You would have turned $100 into $400. So of course, I'm always going to stream at y'all to please make sure you gamble responsibly. If you feel like this is a good idea, go at it. But of course, again, make sure you gamble responsibly. And before we move on, just got to remind y'all again, right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YOUTUBE150. Now let's get to this free agency mock. And let's have some fun, man. I mean, let's most importantly have some realistic fun. And mind you, I also believe that some people would take a little less money to help be a part of and build a strong Super Bowl contender in Washington rather than going elsewhere and getting more money. I don't think it's going to be like a huge difference, but I'm pretty sure that when you're predicting who the commander, and this is the advantage of being one of the, if not literally the single-handedly biggest top number 1 free agency destination out of the entire NFL. You could potentially get guys on decent discounts. I'm not expecting people to take like half the money they would accept elsewhere to come here and be a part of a Super Bowl contender, but I am expecting that if you're projecting this guy may go for this much, you may be able to guess towards the lower end for the Commanders. You know, if it's within a certain amount of range, some people may be like, you can keep those couple of $1 million, and I prefer to go play for the Commanders than to make that extra couple of million to play for a loser franchise, losing team that's not going to go anywhere, especially now that the guys that are hitting free agency, they're only getting older. A lot of these guys not only are done with their rookie contracts, which means they're at least 4 or 5 years into the NFL. Some of these guys are even on to like their second and third contracts. So they're like, hey, man, I mean, we got to look around and be like, man, I want to go to a Super Bowl. I want to compete. You know, I want to actually do something. I've already made a lot of money. I've made my impact. I've put up great stats. I've made some Pro Bowls and things like that. But now the thing that's the hardest to achieve in this team sport is a Super Bowl. I want to put myself in the best position to potentially win one of those. Now to start, I honestly feel like we have a good chance to trade for Myles Garrett. Let's go ahead and get that out the way. But for the spirit of just keeping this purely free agency signing base, this time, this mock free agency will be purely free agency signings. The next one more than likely will include a Myles Garrett trade, so be on the lookout for that. But for right now, we're not going to have Myles Garrett included in the trade. And so now let's dive into the free agency signings for this free agency mock 2.0. First up, we have edge rusher Khalil Mack. And Pro Football Focus estimates that he'll get a 2-year contract worth $22.5 million per year. And mind you, this guy is going to be 34 years old when this season starts, but they said Mack enjoyed a late career resurgence over the past 2 seasons, proving he can still be a force as a pass rusher and a run defender. His 88 quarterback pressures in 2023 marked his highest total since 2016, and his 86.3 pass rushing grade was his best since 2020. Mack's situation entering free agency is easily reminiscent of Von Miller's back in 2022, as his 6-year, $120 million contract with the Buffalo Bills was more like 3 years, $52.5 million in reality. But Pro Football Focus ranks Khalil Mack the number 1 edge rusher and the 5th overall free agent available out of this entire free agency class that anybody can get a hold of. And so I think, honestly, based off of the fact that we're looking like strong Super Bowl contenders, especially if we don't trade for Myles Garrett, I think we can maybe be able to get Khalil Mack for potentially $15 million a year, maybe on like a 1-year deal, prove it type of go out there, ball out. Maybe we'll pay you more next year if you can prove to us that you still got it. I mean, you even have a Chargers reporter estimating that he'll only require $7 million per year. I'm willing to double that to $15 million in my opinion. And again, Pro Football Focus feels like he'll demand $22.5 million per year. So I guess I'm meeting them somewhere in the middle there as far as what I believe is most realistic. Again, especially for the Super Bowl contending privilege of where you may be able to get players for less than they normally would charge other franchises, or even an older version of your own franchise. A couple of years ago, yeah, if we wanted Khalil Mack, you would have had to pay them $23 million a year. But the way that we're set up now, you may be able to get them for only 15. I mean, and also with the fact that, technically he had a down year from a sack standpoint when you're looking purely at the box score, but not watching any tape. If you're looking at the tape, he did not have a down year last year, but purely looking at box score, he only had 6 sacks last season. And maybe you can use that against him in contract leverage negotiations and things like that. But he balled out regardless in every other way. I mean, Pro Football Focus felt like he was the 5th best edge rusher out of 211 gradable guys with a 90.4 overall grade. They felt like his pass rush was a 79.9, which was 16th out of 211 edge rushers. And they felt like his run defense was the 2nd best out of 211 edge rushers in the NFL with an 88 grade. This guy would come in and immediately fix so many problems that we have on defense, really the entire team, but especially defense. I keep talking about it. We dominated time of possession this past season. That was because of offense. I think we ranked 9th in time of possession out of the NFL, and our defense didn't do much to help with that. That was not complimentary football. That was purely our offense being historically efficient with like 15 play, 8-9 minute drives, scoring at the end, barely punting the ball type of stuff. Like, that's why we were able to achieve 9th best time of possession. No thanks to really our defense. Maybe a very minimal amount of thanks to the defense. Imagine if our defense becomes dominant, learns how to take the ball away, learns how to force 3-and-outs immediately, and then give the ball back to our offense as quick as possible, how much we could dominate time of possession. We would be top 3 if you just add a guy like Khalil Mack. And then also, I feel like we do need a little bit more pass rushing. Even though Dante Fowler hit double digits, Frankie Louisville was close behind him, and Dorrance Armstrong, even though he missed games, he was pretty efficient when it came to getting sacks. But we need a guy that can set the edge and stop the run. You could argue our biggest weakness all last season was not only stopping the run, but specifically stopping the run to the outside. That was the biggest hole our entire team had. If we wanted to break things down into specific areas and specific situations, stopping the outside run was the 2024 Washington Commanders' biggest failure, basically. And that's why you saw it against the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. Pretty much every time we played Saquon Barkley, but especially in that NFC Championship game. You can argue Khalil Mack is the best edge rusher in the entire NFL. So at the very least, you're going to get that again. Pro Football Focus felt like he was literally the 2nd best out of 211 gradable edge rushers. At the very least, you're getting that. On top of that, a guy that can go and get double-digit sacks in his sleep. I feel like that's a home run hitting free agency signing, but that's just me. Now let's dive into the next guy. You have Chris Godwin, the wide receiver from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Pro Football Focus feels like he's the 4th best free agent available out of anybody, man. And I do plan on doing a mock free agency that includes T. Higgins, but if we really want to address as many positions as possible, this is why I'm doing 2 of them in a row now that doesn't include T. Higgins, because he's going to demand a lot of money. You have some teams like the Patriots reportedly going to throw whatever it takes. They're willing to outbid other teams, which means the price is only going to get higher and higher and higher. So Pro Football Focus feels like T. Higgins' market value is $28 million per year. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting more than that because of teams like the Patriots out here doing whatever it takes to make sure they get this guy for their franchise quarterback, specifically in their case, Drake May, which is why I keep going with like next tier options. With my mock free agency that I did a couple of days ago that included my mock draft as well, I had us taking Amari Cooper. This time I have us taking Chris Godwin. And I feel like Chris Godwin is better than Amari Cooper. But that's if you promise me that not only he's going to stay healthy in the future, but also moving forward, he's still going to be the great version of himself that he was just as recently as this past season. Shouts out to Pro Football Focus. They feel like he's going to get a 3-year, $20 million per year average contract, $60 million total with $40 million guaranteed. They said Godwin has consistently displayed reliable hands, dropper fewer than 6% of catchable passes in 7 of his 8 NFL seasons. That's actually really insane and elite. He maintained that standard in 2024, earning an 85.7 Pro Football Focus receiving grade through nearly 7 weeks without a single drop on 52 catchable targets. However, Godwin sustained a season-ending left ankle dislocation. He is no stranger to entering free agency with an injury, and hopefully the recovery will be even quicker this time around. And I know his injury from this past season was really bad. I mean, he only played 7 games before he dislocated that ankle that we just talked about, and he had to miss the rest of the 2024 season because of that. But before he got hurt, do not skip over the fact that Pro Football Focus felt like he was the 10th best wide receiver out of all receivers in the NFL. Even with Mike Evans on his team, they felt like Chris Godwin was the 10th best out of 98 gradable receivers with an 86.3 overall grade. He had a receiving grade of 85.7, which was also 10th. I mean, this guy was balling before he got hurt. I mean, mind you, again, he was first in drops out of all wide receivers with 0. He was also 6th in passer rating when targeted, 127.5. So when you throw the ball towards Chris Godwin, basically great things happen. He was 10th in yards after catch per reception. So this guy was also able to get a good yak out of, maximizing every time he touches the ball, you're going to get as many yards as possible. I'm telling you, this is a guy that you want. If you can promise me that he can stay healthy, that he can give you what he gave you last season in those 7 games, but over the course of a 17-game season, he can stay healthy while doing it, I think he's well worth at least 2 years, $15 million per year in a deal, total $30 million. I would easily do that. I mean, maybe you sign him to just a 1 year and give him $15 million for that year, just to make sure that you don't owe him money for 2 years and there's a chance that he may get hurt again. But I'm telling you, a healthy Chris Godwin, I can see why Pro Football Focus feels like he's the 2nd best free agent wide receiver available. They have T. Higgins, then Chris Godwin, then Amari Cooper, then Stephon Diggs, then DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise Brown, Darius Slayton, Keenan Allen. It just keeps going on and on and on and on. There is a reason they feel like he's the 2nd best. And I feel like if you're saying, like, you could promise me that every receiver that we're talking that in this free agency class is going to stay healthy and give you 17 games going into the next season, I would definitely argue that Chris Godwin is at least the 2nd best receiver available. If you can go ahead and get that for a relatively cheap discount off of the fact that not only you're a Super Bowl contender, and also the fact that he's coming off of a serious injury, so you may be able to lowball him there as far as contract negotiations go. If you can go ahead and get that guy and he stays healthy and continues to be who he literally was just last year, still arguably one of the biggest free agency steals even possible. Now moving on, just like my previous mock free agency, I had us taking Ronnie Stanley, and I just feel like that's because I think we really need him. I know he's not the best tackle doing it. I mean, I would argue that he's not even like a great tackle, but he's at least slightly, you could argue, above average at least, or maybe right at average. And that's okay. We're going to get to it. First of all, Pro Football Focus feels like he's the 8th best overall free agent available, period. And the number 1 tackle available in this free agency class. Again, this is a pretty, straight tackle class, honestly. Like, if the fact that Ronnie Stanley is clearly the best tackle available, according to most people. I mean, some people may try to bet on Cam Robinson because of his ceiling, and maybe Tyron Smith, even though he's up there in age, that's the problem with him. But yeah, the fact that Ronnie Stanley is like clearly the best tackle available in free agency class, it's a pretty stale tackle free agency class, nothing to get really excited about. But Pro Football Focus expects him to get a 2-year, $20 million per year deal. I wouldn't pay him that much, and I honestly don't see him getting something that ridiculous, but he will be 31 years old coming up. He's not that old. He can stick around for quite some time and still play at the level that he's playing at right now, which is, again, I feel like somewhere around average, above average, slightly above average, but not like really good, not Pro Bowl level or anything like that at this point. But they said it's hard to argue that any player improved their free agency stock more this season than Ravens left tackle Ronnie Stanley. After a devastating ankle injury in 2021 seemed to stall his career, Ronnie Stanley was back to top form in 2024, posting an impressive 79.6 pass blocking grade through the first 12 weeks. They felt like through the first 12 weeks of the season, Ronnie Stanley was actually one of the best tackles, at least in pass protection in the NFL. And to be honest, again, he's all right, not great, but most importantly, not bad. And with Brandon Coleman at least to me, looks like he's heading towards moving down from left tackle to left guard. Hopefully, in my opinion, we need a left tackle that just simply doesn't allow Jaden Daniels to get obliterated from his blind side. We don't need somebody to Trent Williams' level. We just need somebody that's okay, that will not get obliterated, that Jaden Daniels can trust his left side will be at least pass protected. We'll see about running the ball wise, but pass protection wise, protect your most important asset in Jaden Daniels. Ronnie Stanley can do that. He also has experience doing it for mobile quarterbacks with Lamar Jackson in 2024 and then projecting him to do it for Jaden Daniels in 2025. And I feel like that is a big part of this. I feel like even no matter how talented you are of a tackle, if you go from pass blocking for a non-mobile quarterback and then you have to pass protect for like a Lamar Jackson or a Jaden Daniels, there will be some growing pains. There will be some chemistry issues, especially early on, and probably that will show up at times throughout an entire season. It will take a while to adjust to that. The fact that he already has that experience with Lamar Jackson means he can come here day one, hit the ground running, and do what he needs to do for Jaden Daniels. I mean, honestly, if we were to sign him, all you got to do is just be better than what Brandon Coleman was, at least in the NFC Championship game, and that's a big win and improvement for us already right there. I'm not sure if we can find like a starting left tackle in this upcoming draft, especially with us drafting so late, and we do not have time for experiments when we have a top 5 quarterback already, and we're trying to go for Super Bowls right now. So it's not like we could just wait to draft a guy like 2nd or 3rd round and hope that they could be a good starting left tackle for us immediately this year. We don't have time for that. We're using the draft to get guys that we can develop and that can become star players maybe later down the line. We need to use free agency to get guys that we know can contribute immediately. Ronnie Stanley is exactly that, man. We need somebody that can step in and play right now. And while he has typically been injury prone throughout his career, again, especially with the major injury he suffered years ago, he actually played in every single game in 2024. So there's durability, reliability right there as well. I feel like people will grow to love this signing as time passes, honestly, because it allows us to be very flexible in the draft and truly adopt a best player available mindset and mentality going into the draft, because we wouldn't have so many holes all over the place. At least go and get me Ronnie Stanley at left tackle, and then now we don't have to necessarily press the issue with reaching for a tackle because we just need one to start. We need a guy that can go right now because Jaden Daniels needs protection right now. We don't have time for a guy to develop because Jaden Daniels is already developed. He's already skyrocketed. He's a top 5 quarterback. We don't have a guy that we can just bring in and it's like, oh, we got Jaden Daniels, him and the left tackle could develop together like we thought with Brandon Coleman. Again, I think Brandon Coleman would make more sense. He would be better off at left guard instead. So I would love to go into the draft. We use free agency to fill in as many holes as we have, and then go into the draft purely trying to upgrade positions by adding more talent and not having to fill in positions by reaching just to get guys like, oh, okay, we got a tackle. He may not be a great tackle, but at least we got one. Like, go ahead and give me Ronnie Stanley on like a 1-year deal for like $12 million and then worry about finding a franchise left tackle in 2026 or developing a guy to be ready to take over in 2026. Then next up, Pro Football Focus has cornerback from the Jets. DJ Reed is their 6th overall Pro Football Focus free agent available in this upcoming class. They actually surprisingly have him rated above Travarius Ward. In my opinion, Travarius Ward is the best corner available in this entire free agency class, without a debate in my opinion. But like I said earlier, we're not going to get the #1 top free agent at every position of need. And DJ Reed is an elite consolation prize. I mean, again, I wouldn't be surprised if some people felt like he is the best corner available. Pro Football Focus feels like he is, because again, they feel like he's the 6th best free agent available regardless of position. They feel like Travarius Ward is the 13th. They feel like he's 7 spots lower than him, and at least cornerback wise 1 spot lower than him as well. I mean, I'm also even seeing reports that some teams may feel like that Paulson Adebo guy is the best corner available in this entire free agency class. Either way though, DJ Reed would be a great sign-up. Pro Football Focus projects him to get a 3-year, $14 million per year deal. He's 28 years old right now. He'll be 28 during the season, but he'll turn 29 at some point late in the season. I believe like November or December or something like that. They also said Reed is set to enter free agency after earning his 6th straight season-long 70-plus Pro Football Focus overall grade. His 70.1 coverage grade in 2024 ranked 31st among qualifying cornerbacks. He excelled in Pro Football Focus's advanced metrics, boasting a 51.28 lockdown percentage. So he's kind of like a hot and cold guy. Either he's locking people down or he's getting beat. He's not the most consistent guy, but I'll take a flyer on him. I mean, first of all, he would allow us to go out there with the cornerback group with no weaknesses. I mean, Lattimore and Reed on the outside, Sarah's still back on the inside, and an elite pass rush in front of them with guys like Khalil Mack up there going after the quarterback, not giving them any time to scan the field. And then on top of that, remember, and this is why I feel like this is just a match made in heaven right here. Again, I prefer Travarius Ward over DJ Reed, but I feel like DJ Reed is more realistic and makes more sense because DJ Reed wanted to be traded to the Commanders so bad before the trade deadline. I mean, he was so sad when we traded for Lattimore instead. I mean, he even put it on his Twitter for everybody to see. So now he could just simply walk away without us even having to give up draft capital to get him as a free agent. And mind you, he wanted to be traded to us that bad during our losing streak. This is before the trade deadline. Imagine how he feels about us now after the huge win streak we just went on, including 2 playoff wins in Tampa Bay and Detroit. And especially compared to that dysfunctional Jets organization. And again, this goes back to another guy that, you know, they're done with their rookie deal. They're probably looking around like, yeah, I've already made a lot of money. I've already, you know, left a mark in the NFL. Let me go try to join a team that looks like they're trying to win Super Bowls so I can get as many chances at that, as many stabs at that as possible year after year trying to win a Super Bowl before I got to get up out of here with Father Time calling after me. Now, again, granted, he's only 28 years old, but still, I mean, how many years do you have left in you at the cornerback position? How many years do you honestly believe you have left to play at a high level to where not only are you on a Super Bowl contender, but you're not like just riding the bandwagon. You're not just here just as a depth piece. You're one of the strong contributors, one of the good starters. Like how long do you feel like DJ Reed, but also a lot of these players that we're going to talk about, not only in this mock class, but other ones, how long do you truly feel like you have to where not only are you on a Super Bowl contender, but you're one of the reasons that they are a Super Bowl contender? So with that, to where like you're still young enough, you're still in your prime, and you feel like you're playing well enough to where you're one of the reasons we are about to win a Super Bowl. And I think we could get DJ Reed for like a 2-year contract worth probably like $12 million per year. That's my like realistic projection there. Moving on. And like I mentioned in my first free agency mock, I wouldn't be surprised if we take a flyer on linebacker Dre Greenlaw from the 49ers, who, when healthy, is one of the best linebackers in the NFL. No debate. Pro Football Focus has him ranked the 18th best free agent out of the entire class and feels like he's the best linebacker available. They feel like he's only going to get a 1-year deal worth $6 million right now, though, with only $5 million guaranteed. He's not even 28 years old yet. He'll be 28 by the time the season starts, but he's still 27 right now. Still has his whole prime ahead of him. It's just whether he can recover from the injury or not. I'm going to break down why I think he will. First of all, shouts out to Pro Football Focus. They said Greenlaw worked his way back from an Achilles injury that he suffered in the Super Bowl late last February, but was shut down after only 34 snaps in 2024. He will still likely see a lot of interest in free agency. He excels in coverage, having earned a Pro Football Focus grade of 82.6 and 79.5 over the past 2 seasons. And you could argue coverage is our biggest weakness in the linebacker room right now. I love our blitz ability. I love our ability to get after the quarterback. I like our run stopping between Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louisville especially, but coverage, especially until we see for a fact that Jordan McGee's athleticism is going to finally reach the level that I hope that it can. Right now, coverage is our biggest weakness in our linebacker group. Dre Greenlaw is one of the best coverage linebackers in the entire NFL when he is healthy. But the problem is, when is he healthy? We'll get there soon. But Pro Football Focus wise, even from the limited amount of snaps that he played, again, only 34 last year, they felt like he was 14th in overall grade out of 189 linebackers, an 82 grade. And then run defense wise, they felt like he was 15th with an 85. And then coverage, actually, they gave him his lowest grade yet, and that's probably because of him recovering from a serious Achilles injury with a 63.5 coverage grade. But that's still better than the linebackers we had out there this past season with the Commanders. I love Frankie Louisville and Bobby Wagner, but hey, man, Dre Greenlaw would at the very least be an upgrade in that respect as far as coverage, even after a down year that he just had. And of course, there's a strong connection to our general manager, Adam Peters, from when he was in San Francisco. He literally scouted and drafted Greenlaw. Like, when I mean he drafted him, I mean like literally. Remember, Kyle Shanahan said that Adam Peters was in charge of rounds 4 through 7 of the 49ers drafts while he was there before he became our general manager last season. And Dre Greenlaw was a 5th round pick. Adam Peters handpicked this guy personally. So if there was anybody that may be willing to take a chance on Greenlaw even after an injury that crazy and severe, it would be Adam Peters. And it really helps to know that Greenlaw looked really good in the very few snaps that he did play this past season. Only 34 of them, but I mean, hey, they even got to a point where they sat him to protect him. Like, okay, you look good. This season's over. We're not even going to risk it. That's how good he looked. And so the Commanders may be able to steal a Pro Bowler for very cheap. Remember, Bobby Wagner can't play forever. And a future linebacker group that includes Frankie Louvu, Dre Greenlaw, and Jordan McGee could be crazy for the next few years. Like top 5 linebacker core in the NFL type of stuff. So if we can sign him on like a good 1-year prove-it deal, like we did with Jeremy Chin last year, but for probably a little more money, say for like, they were estimating again like $6 million. I would say I'd give him like $7 to $8 million on a 1-year deal because I feel like he's worth that much. Then we'd be cooking with fish grease, especially in this linebacker room. And again, the reason this whole video started is because Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano feel like we're not only are we going to go crazy in free agency, we're going to go all in, but we're more so going to focus on defense more than anything else. That's why I got you edge rusher Khalil Mack. That's why I got you cornerback DJ Reed. And then I also got you linebacker Dre Greenlaw. I also got a couple of offensive additions with Ronnie Stanley at tackle and Chris Godwin at wide receiver, but I feel like we definitely need to focus on defense more, which is why, lastly, speaking of Jeremy Chin, I'm assuming that we re-signed Jeremy Chin, so that's the only reason I'm not gonna mock Talanoa Hufanga to us this free agency. But hey, don't be surprised if we're looking at him, man. I do again feel like we'll re-sign Jeremy Chin. I know Dan Quinn is very loyal, so like, unless you just are terrible, he's gonna try to bring you back. We'll see how that goes. But if you don't re-sign Jeremy Chin, I would be looking at Talanoa Hufanga at safety, and I don't think he would cost that much money at all. And again, that's another Adam Peters guy that was drafted by Adam Peters for the 49ers just a few years ago, so be on the lookout for that as well. So, hey, man, I'm not going to dive too deep into Talanoa Hufanga in this video because I'm technically not including them in this class, but I probably will the next one. And in my trade for Myles Garrett class, I'll probably go ahead and throw Talanoa Hufanga in there so we can dive into his market value, how good he was, Pro Football Focus grade stats, how he'll fit on the team, everything like that. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, still farm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. I really appreciate y'all. Especially shouts out to all of y'all. If you made it this far in the video, salute. You are the GOAT. I really appreciate you. And as promised, I have the fun fact for the weekend, February 8th. Washington, 3 wins and 5 all-time appearances, entered the 2024 calendar year as one of only 10 NFL franchises to win the Super Bowl 3+ times. Yeah, we are one of only 10 franchises that have 3 Super Bowl wins or more. So, I mean, even though it's been forever since we've won one, but hey, at the very least, optimism wise, it looks like we're on our way to getting another one, and we're still top 10 in NFL franchises in total Super Bowls won. I know it's been a while, but hey, man, we can still say that, especially them sorry Falcons fans that have never won one. They can't say nothing to me. But either way, of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about my mock free agency. Let me know how you feel about the logic I put behind everything. How do you feel about the market values I'm projecting for what we could get for these guys? Let me know if you disagree with any of my picks. Like, would you prefer pay Charvarius Ward more money and not get DJ Reed, but then also that will probably cost you Chris Godwin? Remember, we're not working with infinite money. It would be nice to get the top player at every position, but we can't, so you got to sacrifice some places. So let me know what sacrifices, what changes you would make. You know, so if you want Charvarius Ward at corner instead of DJ Reed, are you willing to like not give up Ronnie Stanley? Then what do you do at left tackle? Do you go left tackle in the first round instead of getting like a Marion Hampton at running back? You know what I'm saying? There's domino effects to all of this stuff. Everything matters. So let me know how y'all would go about everything. Again, I'm already working on my mock free agency 3.0 because I'm super excited to get that one to y'all, because that's going to include a Myles Garrett trade. So be on the lookout for that. Of course, let me know how you feel about this one though that I gave to you today, and make sure you definitely do not leave this video without leaving a like. And also remember that this video was sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, and if you don't do nothing else, please make sure you gamble responsibly. I appreciate y'all, man. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.